Hey everybody, JJ here. Welcome back for another Saturday Zoom networking. Oh my gosh, I'm in Florida. Can you believe this? I'm in West Palm Beach, holding the call on the other side of the country. Crazy. I'm having a great time. Today's call, boy, do we have a rock star for you. This guy he's a coach, he's a trainer, he's an entrepreneur, business owner. The guy's run as many as 70 VAs, not 17, 70. This guy's business has taken many different shapes and configurations, and he's just a true rock star in the real estate industry. None other than my good friend, Keith Fiskum. Keith, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, JJ. Thanks for having me again for my third time speaking to the group.
Oh man, it's truly a pleasure to have you here. One of the biggest gifts that I've come about from my journey in real estate, and it was told to me early on, the biggest gold you take are the people that you meet. And so as I've done my best to network, it's a networking group. I've just been pleased and blessed to surround myself with people like yourself, who I can call my friends. So I want to ask you a little bit, what did you do before you got into real estate, Keith?
Well, it depends. First lifetime, proudly served in the Navy. So my wife and I both served, met in the Navy, and then I got that big, sexy master's degree in accounting and worked in corporate America for 20 plus years. So then we transitioned to real estate.
And what part of the country are you guys in now?
So I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. Most of my business is here in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. We do get outliers at times, depending on what we're doing and what we've got going on in basically the Southeast region right now.
Cool. So let's give us a little synopsis before we get going. But what do you plan on talking today to the group about?
Look, I'm really excited about just kind of dropping some knowledge on running your business, right? So everybody's getting into this to make money. Everybody knows that that's the bottom line goal for everybody, right? Replace your W-2 income, do your own thing as an entrepreneur. What I really want to talk about is how to actually take an action plan, put it into place, and get to the end result. So we're going to be basically talking about that end result and how we're going to work towards that to get you to where you want to be.
Fantastic, my friend. So Keith, with no further ado, my brother, take it away.
Thanks, JJ. Excited to talk to everybody again. Third time speaking to the group. I've seen a few familiar faces. The other times I've been on, I've talked about virtual wholesaling. A little bit about myself. I am 25 years married. I do have a master's degree in undergrad. I got fully involved in real estate in 2015, but I've been picking up single families since the 90s. So I'd always dibbled and dabbled until I finally decided to go full time. So I quit my six-figure job, working as a controller of $100 million business unit of a publicly traded company here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and got burnt out and knew there was a better way, right, to get to the end result. Didn't take a vacation for 15 years, and now I'm going somewhere every 6 weeks, right? So we've decided to live life and take things into perspective and be able to look back and say, hey, with this journey, there's a lot of things that we want to do. Most of us are trying to earn this money to more than likely free up the time to be able to do things with family, friends, loved ones, travel, do the things that we really want to do, not sit there and grind on a 9 to 5, right? So what I'm really looking forward to talking about is the end in mind, right? So what are you guys looking to do and gals looking to do with your business? So you start it up, you get ready, what are you going to do? So this is my journey, right? So I started it up 2015, got 2-3 deals under contract right away. I flipped houses to start. I did 10 flips in my first full year. I had to raise capital. A lot like JJ, I had to go out there and grind and network to get deals, how to go grind and network to get cash and capital. So we really worked towards those things to keep us moving forward. Then it seemed like the next evolution was like, hey, I need to build, right? So I'm still flipping, I'm still building. I'm building new construction here in this area, in Durham and Raleigh specifically. Things are going really well, but it just wasn't it, right? It was like, what's missing, right? And I was like, well, I'm grinding on all these things. I'm going property to property, deal to deal, and that's how we're running the business, which really isn't running the business. I just traded my W-2 income for that business, right? To produce revenue for me, right? So in 2019, we started virtual wholesaling, and I started hiring VAs, and we went that direction. And everybody was like, virtual wholesaling, what are you talking about? You're not actually going to go see a property. And 2019 was a big transformation year, because at that point, you know, I was doing 7 figures annually. We were doing 100 grand a month easily. 19, we took a little step back to implement processes and systems. So when we implemented the processes and systems, what does that look like, right? So I had to define my marketing plan. I had to define a budget. I had to do all that. But when I did it, I looked at the end result. What did I want to do? I wanted to close in my market. Average wholesale deal is 20, 25 grand, right? We're not a high-end market like SoCal where you can go get that 6 figures all day long. But I wanted to at least clear, like close deals, at least 6 figures a month, right? So I worked it reverse. So I went and said, hey, I want to go get my 6 figures. So now I need to know how to go market. So from there, I made my marketing budget, right? So what's my marketing budget? Well, we love pay-per-click. So we love Google ads, right? We love Facebook ads. This is where we started getting heavy into the VAs. We hired a cold calling service and a company, and JJ and I and Devin was on a little bit earlier when we were talking about that, and Joel. You know, a lot of people get into that, and that's where you start, right? And then you're paying anywhere from $5 to $10 an hour. Well, as we continue to work through in our network, all of a sudden we're like, we can run our own call center, right? So we basically started our own call center, and you know, we weren't paying more than $3 a cold caller at that point. But that didn't really matter, because when you're running cold callers or not running them, how do you run them, right? You put them on hub staff, right? You make sure that you got them on there. You're monitoring their calls. You're giving them what you want, right? If you tell them you're going to get 2 leads a day from each cold caller, guess what they're going to give you? 2, right? So immediately we went to 5, and then we went to 6, and then we went to 7. So we continued to scale that up until we were getting the lead flow that I knew that our closers could close on to get us to that 6 figures. So hopefully that's making sense, right? So we reverse engineered it with the end in mind to get to where we were going. But the whole time we were focusing on netting 6 figures a month, right? And here's the thing that almost everybody that I come across, and it doesn't matter where you're at in your business, you forget to do, and that's pay yourself first. If you do not pay yourself first, you don't have a business, right? Because then you're just hustling from deal to deal, closing to closing, and hoping that you can pull something off the table. So give yourself a modest salary. Don't get crazy, you know, whether it's $5 grand a month or 10 grand a month or 15 grand a month, depending on where you're at, and build that into your model, right? You have to be able to get the reward for the hard work. Because what we normally do as entrepreneurs, and I was guilty of this to start, right? I said, I'm just going to pour it all right back into my business, and all back into my business. And I get more and more deals, and more deals didn't really give me the flexibility to travel and do the things that I wanted to do. It helped the bottom line. It made more money, but what it didn't do is give my wife peace of mind, right? She's like, well, we're scrambling and we're doing great and we're closing all these deals, but where's the money at, right? You do your taxes at the end of the year. Where's the money at? So what we decided to do back then is basically come up with 3 or 4 buckets. And, you know, I had a salary bucket. I had an overhead bucket. That overhead's going to be for rent, if you've got a rental space, if you've got office space, for employees, if you've got employees, VAs, your advertising budgets, and that's going to go in there. And I took 65% of everything we did, and that went into that bucket, right off the top. Every deal, 65% went in there. And I made sure that we built our team out and went in that direction to start. So from there, we took 15% to Uncle Sam, and I just set it aside, and 25% went to me, right? So whether I was taking a salary or if I was doing a quarterly distribution, depends how your entities are set up. But we actually modeled it and ran it like an actual business, right? It's not a hobby, or it's a hobby until you start paying yourself, right? So most people make that mistake because we don't know any different, right? Some of us are sitting there doing, like me, I was an accountant. I was like, I can do accounting all day long. I could have went and started an accounting service. I could service everybody on this call all day long and do it in my sleep with VAs, and everybody's books would be amazing. But that's not what I wanted to do, right? But to do it, you've got to set up the system and the processes, right? And that's the key that I think the other piece that people are missing is Thanks, Joe. I see your comment. Because a lot of people slip up on that one, but on the accounting side, but the processes and the systems are what keeps you consistent. It's giving your VAs a certain amount of, I don't want 2 calls. I don't want 2 leads a day. I want 5. I want 7, to hold metrics and keep them in place. And for those of you who don't know me, there's an Amazon bestseller out there that I authored that tells you how to run your business with your KPIs, right? So I've already wrote that book. That's already out there. That dropped earlier this year. Little self-plug there for myself because JJ allowed that. I know I'm not usually good at that stuff because I don't like to self-promote. I don't like to be in front of the camera. I just like to go and give knowledge and help out people like yourselves that are taking your time out of your busy Saturday. So from there, what we did is every month you took a look at it, right? What's working, what's not working. You don't just set it and forget it, right? You tweak, right? So when I first started, I was flipping like crazy. And then I was building like crazy. And then I went all wholesaling. Well, in the meantime, I've been picking up more rentals and everything else, right? So I started cherry picking other deals. And now wholesaling's been the bread and butter. And now I can just go over here and over here and over there, right? So by setting up processes and systems and running it like a business and actually paying myself, what it allowed me to do is if I need to go get financing or if I needed to go do something, I've got income that I can show that, right? It's not, hey, let's go look at my previous tax returns from my business company and let's see what we're doing, because that's looking in the rear view, right? So what they want to see is what you're doing now and how you're doing. So that helps with raising other capital and other things along those lines, right? Whether it's private money, which we raise a ton of, and we do it in all the networking and community groups. I haven't had to worry about not closing a deal in quite some time. So systems, processes, pay yourself, look at it, tweak it, and revisit it, right? And if you've got a partner, you guys need to be meeting at least, if you're not on the financials, you should be meeting at least once a month at a bare minimum, definitely quarterly. If you've got a CPA and a power team, you need to be meeting with them as well. Why? Because there's a lot of different tax incentives that somebody like myself, who's a very solid rock star person that could make 6 figures in corporate America. I wasn't a tax guy though, right? I could do the books and I can make sure the books are fine. But when I hand them over, then they're going to go say, hey, what if we accelerate depreciation over here on the rentals? And what if we do a cost seg on this to save us some money there? They're coming up with the ideas, because what you want to do, and JJ said it very well early, for those that had jumped on early enough, is we don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. What I'm really trying to encourage everybody to do is, again, I'm really big on the business plan. The accountant and the analytical in me is, hey, run your budget, do a whole 5-year plan and all that. But here's the skinny on that, right? Majority of the people on this ain't going to have time to do it. They may not understand how to do it. It's just like not everybody on here is going to be the salesperson. Some people on this call are going to be the marketers. Some are going to be the salespeople. Hopefully you've got a team around you to help get you to where you need to be. But when you put your systems in place and your processes in place, you start to identify where you're weak, right? And this is where you've got to come in and bring the strength to the team. So there's a lot of different profiles and indexes and personality traits that people use. I like predictive index as a solid one that we use. So if you're looking to hire, I highly recommend that one. It's the only one that you can actually use in court that will actually be recognized, not the Myers-Briggs and some of the other cool ones that I did when I was in corporate world, right? That, hey, what sector do you land in? This basically tells you your traits, and that's how we built our team, right? We use predictive index, and we tried to make sure that we match the people to the roles and the positions, because if anybody's read the book Traction, I didn't know if that was on JJ's or not, right? You got to have the right butts in the right seat. So if you don't have the right butts in the right seat, then guess what? You ain't going to where you want to go as fast as you want to go. But if you're looking at your business, you're reflecting on your business, you're going to identify it sooner or later. And what we really want to do is we don't want to have to go through that growing pain in those steps, right? I want to nip that in the bud. I want to hit my predictive index. I want to say, hey, this is the person that I want to be my business unit leader. This is my bull. They're going to run all my sales team, all 10 of them, all my VAs, all 70 of them, or whatever we've got going on. And this is how we're going to implement this system. So with that, it all comes together, right? A lot of people talk about what's going on in Congress and all that other stuff and how we get these laws. Nobody wants to see how the sausage is made, right? And that's where us as entrepreneurs, we skip that step, right? We want to go from, hey, I quit my job to, damn, I'm a millionaire, I just bought my Lambo, right? And it can happen. It can. But there's going to be 1,000 little steps in between that most people aren't going to want to do, or they're going to try and skip that step, and they're not going to get to that end result to where they want to be in the timeline. Doesn't mean you're not going to ultimately get there, because you will, if that's your drive, right? So I want to make sure that when you're doing that, you keep that in mind. That's why I always say, what's your end goal? I knew I wanted to travel. I'm older than a lot of people. When I started this, I was like, I want to be done by the time I'm 50. I want to be knocked out and retired and all done, buttoned up, doing whatever I want to do. And if I want to dabble, I dabble. If not, I don't care about working the rest of my life, right? Because those of us that have hit COVID, I did more wholesale deals in 2020 and 2021 when COVID hit than you could ever imagine, right? We're closing 5-10 deals a month easily. And why was that? Because most people didn't have processes and systems in place. And all the people that were sitting at their table thinking, hey, this is easy money. And it's that again, right? You know, in 2022, it's been fairly easy money, at least this last quarter. You know, they went out of business because they didn't have a process. They didn't have a system. They were doing it part-time. They were only halfway in. They were only trying to work it in. They didn't prioritize what they needed to get to their end goal. And with that in mind, you know, you've got to have that, right? So I don't care if your end goal is making 10,000 a week, a month, a day, a minute, a second, whatever it is, you know, you've got to put your goals out there and you got to speak them into existence, right? So I'm big on affirmations. I want people to talk about their goals. I want people to talk about, hey, if I can only make $1,000 a day, that gives me 30 grand a month on average. That's going to keep me healthy in most markets, unless you're in, you know, the major super metropolitans like, you know, the SoCals in New York, and those where 360 is nice, but 360 in a smaller town in a smaller area, you can live very well on, right? So, so run your business, right? Run your business. Have your processes in place. And then when I say it, I don't mean up here, right? I don't mean like, let's just put it up here and I know what it is. No, you have to document it, right? You have to document that process. When a lead comes in, what do? What's the first thing you do when that lead comes in? Do you pick up the phone call? Do you research the property? Do you make an offer on it? Do you figure out your exit strategy? Because you've got 10 questions before you even look at it, depending on what business model you guys are running, right? So you've got to be able to identify it, and you can't just wing it, right? Because you're going to get caught. You're going to go after that shiny object, right? So I've been in this game long enough where when I was first starting, direct mail was great. Man, I could get really good results on direct mail. And then it was cold calling. Everybody cold called. And then it was pay-per-click. And then everybody pay-per-click. And then it was, hey, texting's the best thing ever, right? And I've seen it really good in certain markets, and I've seen it not so good in some of the other markets we're in, right? But then they changed the laws. So then you got to stay up on top of that. And, you know, I'll make sure that you're not, you know, robo-blasting it out so you don't get caught in a lawsuit, right? So you want to make sure that you have that done and planned out the way that you need it to go, right? So with that, again, this is a very quick conversation with everybody, right? So I can't get into like ABCs of every little nuance, but put your systems in place, document them, implement them. When you get your team, you have them do the predictive index. When you have your documents and your processes, guess what you have for your team? You have your SOP, right? Standard operating procedures, or basically what their job is or their job role is. So you've got some documentation for them to go. And here's your training right here. Here's what my expectation is right here. The nice thing about what we got going on in this digital age is all this can be done by Loom, right? I can shoot. When I finally, because it took me a long time, even in my role, I finally outsourced all the accounting. When I hired accountants, I did Looms, right? This is what you need to do for all these different transactions. I documented the process. process, and I did looms. You check your bank statements every day. You check your cash every day. You make sure your bills are paid every day. You got your AP or your AR, depending on how you got things coming in or not. And this is how you do it. But you got a digital age right now where you can take it and do it. And when you do it once, now it's rinse and repeat, right? So you can push it out. It's going to look great. Then you're going to go review it after a month. And guess what? Something might change. I might not be flipping anymore, or I'm not building anymore, right? I don't want to get caught with dirt right now, right? Because everybody sees what's happening big picture wise with rates and inflation and yada, yada, yada. If you guys were on the call with me last year, you would have heard me talk about exactly what's already happening, because I've pretty much been spot on when I've talked about it. I personally don't want to get caught. So when I ran that and I did that, what did I do? I now sold my business because I didn't want to get caught. So now I'm just going to cherry pick and do my things now, and I'm going to make my money, and I'm going to do things as I need to, but I'm not going to be sitting there with a full office full of people and a lot more liability, because with that becomes the stress, right? So we're going to travel every 6 weeks. We're going to live our lives. We're going to go international. We're going to stay domestic. We're going to do a lot of different things that allow us to stay flexible, to stay in front of people. One of the other things I want to do is I wanted to speak more, right? So enter JJ. All of a sudden, JJ's like, hey, it's been a while since you talked. And I didn't even have to reach out to him, right? JJ's just like, hey, when you're ready, let me know. I was going back and forth. Everybody always wants to hear about how do you virtual wholesale, never walk a property, make an offer, get it under contract, never go walk the property, never do a repair estimator, but you're making 100 grand on a deal, because that's the high end, or you're averaging 20 or 25. That's what everybody wanted to hear. So I appreciate everybody getting on this, because it's really not about the sexiness of how you're going to market. Because look, everybody can talk about that. JJ's got 100 videos in there. You've got me in there twice talking about that kind of thing. You guys can go to his YouTube channel, and if that's what you wanted to hear, you guys can hear that all day long from me, right? Because I'm already there. And then a lot of the other guest speakers, will talk about the marketing and how to acquire your properties. But what people are not doing is talking about is how do you run your business? How do you implement a process? I don't care if you're a one-person team or if you've got 100 people on your team, right? I don't care if you're flipping or if you're a realtor. If you're a realtor and you've got a brokerage, what does that look like? How do you run your team? How do you hold them accountable, right? What kind of metrics do you put in place to help them understand what your goals are? Just because they're your goals and the business's goals, how do you get that relayed to your employees, right? And that's through the predictive index, that's through the training, that's through dialing them in. Our team knew what we made, right? I didn't hide that, right? A lot of people are kind of like, you mean you actually showed them? Yeah, I showed them how to run a damn business, right? I showed them a profit and loss statement, an income statement. I showed them what the business is making. I showed them what a balance sheet looked like. What is a balance sheet? The balance sheet is the health of your business, right? Do I have accounts receivable, accounts repayable? How much debt do I have on my books? How much cash do I have? What's my cash burn rate? People just don't talk about it because it's just not sexy, right? So the challenge for most, you're going to be solopreneurs and you're just getting going, or you haven't gotten your first deal. Like JJ's 10 deals are under, right? But he's running a great networking thing for him, right? So what's JJ looking to do to try and either monetize on that or get in the right rooms with the right places to help monetize that, right? So for JJ, that's his challenge that I would challenge him to do is, make sure he's got that path down there. And I know he's working with a lot of really good people right now with Cody and that group, and he's putting himself in great positions. And hopefully with you guys coming here today, I've at least opened your mind up to understanding that, until you pay yourself, it's a hobby. Till you were able to replace your old income, it's a hobby, right? And for me, my first thing was, let me replace my 6-figure income and my wife will be happy and I'll be good. So guess what I did that first year? I just replaced it because I put the limited mindset on myself. And then I looked back and reflected and I was like, man, I could have made a lot more money. So how do I do that? Well, I got to put some systems in place. I got to put processes in place, right? I got to make sure that I'm running a business and not a hobby, right? So I don't have a lot more on that. I mean, there's so much detail on every little thing that I've talked about that, I could go really granular, because if you guys saw, I literally took Before I sold the business, I took 5 months and mapped out all 4 businesses. It took me over 100 hours of like mapping my business out, right? So if any of you are techies and into coding or programming, it was like this box does this, and then it goes here. And then if it's yes, it keeps going. If it goes no, it goes down. Hundreds of hours, over 100 hours to be able to streamline that process, train everybody up, and get it to the point where I could actually sell the businesses versus just be like, I'm just going to close up, right? If you're looking for legacy and everything else, for family, friends, loved ones, bringing other people in, no better time than now to get this under wraps and where you want to go with it. So, I got a 24-year-old daughter. She's been exposed to everything. I've had her doing Airbnbs. She's had all kinds of opportunities, and she just doesn't want to do it. She doesn't want to do the work. She's just not interested in it. So, for me, it was tried to be legacy to start, but when she decided not to, I sold it. So, from there, I'd like to either open it up for questions, JJ, or I know a lot of times we do breakouts, so I don't know how you want to do it, but either which way, we could start off with the Q&A. And if we think there's some value and people really want to talk about more things in a breakout session, maybe we can still accommodate that, but let's do some Q&A.
I got a question as we get going here. What was that book that you mentioned or it's your book that you wrote, right?
Yeah, it's Play to Win. Is the thing, and then it's How to Run Your Business with Data.
And that's your book, and it's on Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. And again, you guys can check it out if you want, not check it out if you want. It talks a lot about the data and the metrics that I talk about in great detail to try and get people, play to win, to try and get people to that next level, right? And there's a lot of people, again, that talk about certain things, but there's so many things that in the business aspect we're leaving out. We're always talking about closing, and that's the sexy thing, and getting money in the bank, and that's great, and we've got to have it, right? But the pieces in between are just overlooked so often that it's hard to see people go out of business in 2020, and they were thriving in wholesaling because they didn't know, that this thing wasn't going to rain money forever, and all of a sudden the industry was shut down in a lot of markets. So we'll try and help people along and give them some more knowledge and some opportunity. So if at the end of this year, first quarter next year, things get really tight, wholesalers are going to clean up people, going to clean up sub 2. Oh my gosh. It's going to be like it was in 07, 08. It's going to be, it's going to be, I don't want to call it easy money because people are going to get hurt, but there's going to be plenty of opportunity for those that keep an open mind to how to be able to help others.
Going to be a buyer's market, that's for sure.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be ridiculous again.
Yeah, I'm
loading up cash.
Yeah, I'm waiting myself. So let's see here. Let's plug somebody in with us. Felicia Smith, you are on with Keith Fiskum. What's your question?
My question is, Keith, you mentioned something about paper clips when you were talking about direct mail and all that. What is that? What are you saying?
Yeah, so pay-per-clicks is Google advertising, right? So that's marketing.
Okay.
And here's the thing about that, and I don't want to get heavy into the advertising side of life, but I don't care if you're doing PPC, which is pay-per-click, or you're doing the virtuals. Most of us are going to think we've got some skills and can do it ourselves. You're going to waste your money. And then you're going to hire somebody, and a lot of you are going to waste your money. And by that, don't take that the wrong way, but what you really need to do is make sure that you're targeted, right? So for us, I knew exactly what zip codes I wanted to be in, what house range price I needed to be in, all the different nuances that I knew that were my sweet spot. And then I worked with them, right? It wasn't, hey, let me pay these people to run my paid per click, my PPC marketing. What I wanted to do is make sure that I gave them enough knowledge to get me a good baseline, which is the baseline is the the basically the average of everything that's going on, right? So I wanted to make sure I gave them good foundation. And then when they started doing their thing, because everybody's the best, and you'll hear it, and you'll hear everybody will preach it, and you're going to get mixed results. So you've got to manage them like you do your VAs or anybody else, right? That's your money trying to get you your leads. So you've got to make sure that you're asking good quality questions of, what's your pay-per-click version? How many people are coming off of dropping off your website? Are you retargeting? What's your strategy to do that? If I spend X, what should I expect for leads, right? And again, that gets back to your end goal. If I need 10 good leads a week to get me one deal for me, then I need to know I need to get to 10. And it could be a combination of pay-per-click, or it could be cold callers, it could be texting, it could be a lot of different things. So you got to know where your end goal is when it comes to that. Does that help?
Yes, it does. And one last question. I just met a girl who is, well, I shouldn't say girl, she's a lady. She's getting ready to graduate from college next year, but she's majoring in marketing. And she told me social media is going to be her thing. If I hire her, she's local, how much would you say I would hire just with the starting business that barely has anything in the account? I do have something on the wholesale right now as a contract, but
sure. So my question back to you is what do you want out of that? Right. So social media, like it's your Instagram, is that your Facebook, is that your posts?
Yes.
Is that to help build your brand and your name? Is that what that position would be?
Yes. And then also, like, if I have a house, to put a house out there.
Okay. So they're going to help you market or dispo a house, or do something along those lines. Get in Facebook groups. And again, dispo is the easiest thing in the world right now, right? Because, there's so many buyers out there right now that people, dispo, if you're having issues dispoing, we can, let's talk on another call or something. But
okay.
Dispo is simple right now, right? A lot of different ways to get that. For me,
lost me on dispo. What's dispo?
Dispositions. It's selling your product. Yeah,
okay.
It's dispositions. That's just a wholesaling term. Where the dispo is selling that deal for you on your behalf, right?
Right.
So I think for me, if you're first starting off and you're trying to build out that brand, for me, it's hard to really put a dollar amount on that, because it's going to be hard for you to get that now. Getting value for your dollar. So like right now, if I were to hire a marketing company for me, I could be like, hey, let's go over all of my different platforms, and I've got tens of thousands of viewers and people all over, and I know how to go monetize this. So let's go do this, 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 and this. And I'm going to know, because I've got a track record that I can point back to and try to get more dialed in, right? For somebody just getting going, you just kind of want to say, hey, I'm here, which shouldn't cost you much. And then if they're trying to help you sell the deal, that's going to be different on how you want to structure that, right?
Okay. So what came into my thought, and then I'm going to stop so somebody else can ask questions, is that I should get on a Zoom with her and maybe show her my platforms. And then ask her, well, I need your feedback now. I need your expertise, your critique. And then we go from there. And if necessary, I'll say, okay, well, how much do you think you would charge, or whatever, go from there. And then telling her, with her being a star, how much I would be willing to charge.
Yeah. And you just got to be careful with that, because again, everybody's going to think they're worth a lot, and they've got a college and everything else. So look, if you're talking to me, I'm going to be the best salesperson ever. And I'm going to be worth $1 million a minute. Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
So be careful with that. I fully believe in testing and making sure she's comfortable with the platforms. That I get, right? Because you're basically getting into her qualifications. So I would absolutely do that. But be careful with that. The other thing, but yeah, I would be like, hey, structure a package deal for me. What it looks like for you to do my social media and help me out with moving some properties, and give me a quote.
Okay. Thanks, Keith.
Let them give you the price. Right. That's negotiation 101. You don't ever want to give them a number.
Okay.
Because if you say, hey, I can give you $2,000 a month because I got two, they might have did it for 500 just to get their foot in the door. You don't know. Right.
Gotcha.
Or they might come back and say $10,000, and then they're way out of your league. And then you can kind of politely work through it and just be like, okay, let me think about it. Right. And then that way you're not insulting them either. Right. You're not wasting time.
Right. And Devin, I saw you dancing. This must be really good to him, because he was really dancing.
Yeah, he's taxing on this thing too. So, all right, JJ.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Melissa Butts, you are on with Keith Fiskum. What's your question?
Thank you. Hi, Keith.
Hi.
My question for you is, I've been looking up information on creating a business plan, and it's a bunch of different information and a ton of it. Can you give us or me some sort of indicator or direct me in the right direction where I could potentially go, so I don't have to spend, 3 months trying to create or just read up on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great question. Small Business Association will help you write those sometimes if you reach out to your local branch. I don't know if they're doing that as much now, but I know back in pre-COVID, they absolutely would, right? They'd be like, okay, it's a free service, right? Where you can actually get in there and they talk to you and they'd allow you to get into that to allow you to do that. So, and again, your business plan. So there's a couple of things with your business plan. So I guess my next question for you would be, what's your intention to use your business plan for?
Well, once I get rid of my W-2 job, if for whatever reason I have to go to a bank or whatever, and they're looking to, if I have to get a loan that way, everybody always wants to see your business plan. When
Yep.
you work with some, hard money lenders, some of them want to see your business plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's great, and that's again, so that'll help keep your audience in mind too, right? Because some people are doing their business plan because that's the way my brain works. I'm all analytical, but when I did my predictive index, I was a sales guy, which blew me away. I was like, really? But I'm a trapper, right? So I'm one of those that can sell. I can sell if you come to me. I'm not going to be that guy out there, pounding you on that. So I did not think that was going to be my profile. So you always want to keep your audience in mind when you're writing your business plan. You're right. If you're doing a credibility packet or if you're doing something for private lenders and or banks, there's going to be a slightly different narrative as well, right? But most of your business plans are going to be very, very simple. Who are you, right? So who's your business? What do you do? How long have you been doing it? And what's your vision? Right. It's pretty straightforward from that perspective. And then, of course, depending on how deep you're getting into it, they're going to want financials and everything else. Right. So when you do it, keep in mind that to keep your audience in mind while you're doing it, because they're going to be slightly different. Because like a traditional lending at the bank, they're going to rip your balance sheet. They're going to rip everything about your life up. A private money lender might be like, hey, I'll lend on the deal. Just give me kind of an overview of what you're going to do. Right. So there's different voices that you're going to want to speak with. Okay. So hopefully that'll help you out.
Can I ask, do you do like 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plans, or what do you exactly target?
So the first I do a 1 year to start. Right. And make sure you're comfortable with that, because again, and I don't mean to say that's for this group, but in a lot of these businesses aren't going to make it a year, right? Literally. So to do a 1, 3, and a 5, the other thing you want to do is try to be realistic. So if you look back at my 1, 3, and 5, if I were to roll it back, I was flipping and then I was building, and now I've gone all virtual and I went all wholesaling, and then I've gotten an office. So my model has shifted with the markets as we've gone. So that's why we always go back to revisit our business and our business plans to make sure we're tweaking as we go. Because again, if you're in one lane and you're great at it, stay in it and do it and be great with it. Right. But if you're like I was, and I say was because now I'm just doing wholesaling after, I've sold, I still got a lot of connections. So I'm still going to cherry pick some deals and do some things because I can't just sit here. But keep that in mind, right? Because it will change. So you need to revisit that along the way as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Devin Hunt, what's your question for Keith?
Hey. Before I get started, Melissa, I love your accent. The Wisconsin Northwest accent, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. But Keith, thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate what you had to share. So I know you spoke over like pay yourself first. I've been kind of weird with that and running my business, because I quit my job. I'm a college student right now. And so I was working as a server and I quit my job at the beginning of the year because I was like, I'm going to go all into this. But I've been weary about how I divide up my revenue with my deals, and just like, I live pretty way below my means, like rice, chicken, all of the above. So then I can supply for the business. But how would you say, like, what advice would you give for a college student that is trying to scale, grow their business? So then, post college, I can just go full time into this. Like right now I'm in summer, so I'm starting that.
Yeah, no, great question, Devin. And I am from Wisconsin as well, so I'm just southeast corner there, Melissa. So, but yeah, I've been gone there for a long time. So, so college students. Again, people are gonna. So let me just tweak on your mindset, right? So when I coached a lot, especially early on, a lot of it's just mindset, right? So if you put it into your mind that you need to make money to live, that you need to get paid, then that's the way it needs to be, right? Most people will say, I need to grow my business and I need my business to go bigger, stronger, faster, and they forget that. Oh, by the way, I still got to put food on the table. I don't care if you're living below your means or not, right? I mean, and that's great. Because you sound like you have a grasp on that, right? So a lot of times when I'm coaching and talking with younger people, especially in that range, like even my daughter, right, is like, do your budget, do your personal budget, know what your household expenses are. And then from there, you know how much you need to live on. And that's what you pay yourself to start, right? So if you are living below your means, but your means, and again, if you're in the Texas area, depending on where you're at, that's not exactly cheap markets, depending, especially DFW, Houston, Austin, those are great markets, but they're not exactly, inexpensive, in a lot of cases. So,
right.
So I would work it that way. I would make sure that you understood what your personal budget needs to hit first and then work it from there, because that's what you have to live on, right? Because if you're worried about not being able to eat or have a roof over your head, whether you're in a dorm or if you're living off campus or however you're living, right, for as a college student, none of that matters if you can't get it done, right?
Right.
You have to pay yourself. And here's the good thing is you're going to create a good habit early on, right? So as you grow your business and, if you're started college just after you graduated, by the time you're 30, and if you do all this right, or 25, you could be done for life. And just figuring out what else you want to do to get your other things. So the other things that I do, I invest in crypto and the stock market. I do other things that allow me to also be flexible, because I've also then taken my money that I've earned and put them in those buckets for investments, right? So it doesn't just stop there, right? It bleeds into your personal life, right? So if I'm taking a W-2 salary, that's going to be my overhead bills. If I'm taking a quarterly distribution, as in, hey, we did really good this month, let me just take a little extra out, that's going to my investments and my travel and all my other funds to make sure that I'm covered, that I don't have to strap my household. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it does. So I, like you mentioned, I need to know what I need to live off of, and I've got a personal budget down. I have a majority of my bills automated and everything. So moving over from that, like once I have my personal salary, paying myself first, squared away, what else should I start allocating my money to? Like I know there's, lead gen, marketing, acquisition, dispo, I guess those are the same thing, but where do I need to start allocating? It doesn't need to be down to the exact percentage, but how should I allocate those?
Yeah. So, for me, it was, 65% of everything that we brought in ran the business, right? And some of that's overhead costs, fixed costs. I had offices, I had employees. And then some of that is marketing and advertising. And, when I was talking about, I worked backwards to go forward. It's like, what's your end goal? If your end goal is, hey, I want to get $100,000 a month, then I know I need to have X amount of lead gen, because if I don't have the lead gen, I can't get it closed, right? So then I would start on lead gen to generate that opportunity, but knowing that lead gen doesn't stop and start, right? I mean, if you're doing, what's your business model? You wholesaling, sub two, and what are you doing?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm wholesaling right now.
Yeah. So if you're wholesaling, that's great, and it's good to get it under contract. But then in the meantime, now I've either got to get to a title company or I've got to get to an attorney, right? Because so my transaction coordinator, my middle person that holds the glue between my seller and my buyers, they put that deal together. And then once that's bundled up, then it's with the dispo, right? Dispo's got to sell it. So if you're good on the front end and you get the lead gen and you get deals, you still got to be able to work the backside, because that's where you're going to get paid, right? So don't sleep on the backside.
Okay, very well. And then one more question, I guess, to follow up with that. How did you allocate your time getting started into this? I know you went from your W-2 on to, full-time entrepreneur, like, quit, I'm done. Like, this is what I'm doing now. I have trouble with the whole time allocation. I got my planner and everything, so I schedule my time down, but
there's a time exercise program, right, that you can do, but I still do it. It still drives my wife crazy that I sold the businesses and we're doing our things, and I still get up at 4:30 to get to the gym by 5.
Yes, sir.
She's like, what in the world? Why don't you just push it? No, because I was like, if I break my routine, then I'm done. And if I break my routine, then honey, I'm all the way done. I'm pulling up all the investments. I'm done. Right. Wow. So let me stay in my routine. So that's what I did. So that's my routine, right? 4:30, I'm up. 5 o'clock, I'm at the gym. By 7 o'clock, I'm home. 7 to 7:30 is me cooking breakfast, getting ready. 7:30 to 8, it's me playing with my puppy, getting my puppy ready. 8 o'clock, I'm on my books on my office. From 8 to 9, that's my time to plan out my day. From 9 o'clock on, I have my increments of every 15 minutes to know what I'm doing. If I'm doing marketing, I'm doing marketing. If I'm doing dispo, I'm doing this. But I do that for the entire day until my day is done. And when's your day done? When your work is done, when you've hit your goals, right? So if and then with that, hey, this is my meeting for my accounting day. This is my CPA day. This is my tax planning. This is my estate planning. This is, I've hired coaches, and to JJ's thing earlier, when you pay people to do things, I've paid somebody to come into my life and rip it apart. Do I have enough insurance here? Do I have the right things here? Are my houses in trust? Are things done well to protect the assets that I have? Am I optimizing the tax codes, right? So when you do those things, like Friday I had time blocked off all afternoon because I knew I was going to meet with the attorneys because we just redid the will and the estate planning, right? So you have to get that granular, but it does you no good if you don't follow it. And then if you're not following, it does you no good not to go revisit it, to tweak it, to get you back on track. Right. So I always say do 15s, because 15 is a very simple thing to look at. If you do an hour, you're going to go, oh shit. Oh man, that hour just slipped by. Yeah. So if I was in the office and my employees were coming to me, it's like, you can't come to me between 8 and 9. It's blocked. That door, it doesn't exist. Yeah. Right. And then after that, if we've got a meeting, then we're going to meet. If it's not, it better be a 911 fire, because I don't want to be chasing fires all day. I want to be building and working on my business. As entrepreneurs, 80% of our time should be working on generating wealth and opportunity in our business. 20% should be putting out fires and doing the other things. So if we're not working on the front end of that piece, we're in trouble.
Yes, sir. Very well. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
If you guys are watching the call on YouTube, please like Keith's video. Click below that you like the video. Please comment on presentations as well as liking them, because that feedback, that interaction helps the page itself. If you're on the call, hang on. We're going to go to the breakout rooms. Everybody else watching the call, thanks for joining us, and look for more videos coming up on Flip Side Up with JJ. See you guys soon. Over and out.